Did I tell you? I'll
All
go
right.
after Tim. Right here.
Hi, everybody. Rhonda, can you hear me okay? Rhonda, can you hear me okay? Hi. All right, everybody. Sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties today. My name is Tara Kendrick, and I'm with Senior Resource Center, and we are doing our presentation today on VA aid and attendance. It's a pension that helps pay for long-term care for veterans and their spouses. Today's presentation is presented by Parsons House, which is a wonderful assisted living community in Austin, Texas. It's family owned, and they are offering tours currently, and they also have spaces available. So I will have their information and have Rhonda come back on and talk a little bit about the facility at the end. All right, so how do we help? We help in 4 different areas as Senior Resource Center. We do full comprehensive retirement planning. We do tax planning, not tax prep, but just helping people find ways to save money in retirement with being smart about their taxes, long-term care planning, and estate planning. So we do those work specifically in those 4 areas, but today we're going to focus on long-term care planning. And in long-term care, there are 6 different ways that people pay for long-term care. The first one's going to be Medicare, which is short-term long-term care. Self-insure, of course, save your own money so that you can pay for your own care. VA aid and attendance, which we'll speak about today. Medicaid, which is the great safety net that will help pay in skilled nursing. Long-term care insurance products, and then there's different income products that are also available out there to help pay for long-term care. So today we're going to focus on the VA aid and attendance benefit. The long version of it is called the non-service connected pension with aid and attendance. It's a pension that's designed for veterans and their spouses, and the disability is not connected to service. Your disability is actually that you're over the age of 65 and unemployable. So there's a few bits of criteria that you need to know in order to apply. And the first one is you have to have honorable discharge. You have to have served 90 consecutive days of active duty, and one of those days has to be in an official period of conflict. So you're disabled based on VA's standards, and you have qualifying military service. So let's look at the dates. So the official periods of conflict currently, we have Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War. So as long as you served 90 consecutive days and just one of those days falls within this date range, then you would be eligible for the benefit under that criteria. Bill, you're muted. Okay. Rhonda, if you can hear me, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? No. Rhonda, wave your hand if you can hear me. No.
What the hell's going on?
I don't know. Let me see if I refresh it. All right. Rhonda, can you hear me? I am so sorry, guys.
Is Rhonda muted?
Let me see. I can hear you, Tara. Oh, thanks, Paula. All right, finally. All right, we're going to, okay, we're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to start over. So let me get back to the front. I apologize. We are having serious technical difficulties today. All right, we'll start here. Hi, everybody. This is Tara and Bill with Senior Resource Center. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Today we're talking about VA aid and attendance that helps pay for care for those who are veterans and spouses of veterans that served during a wartime period. There are 6 different ways you can pay for long-term care. You can pay for Medicare, so you can self-insure. VA aid and attendance is also an option. And then Medicaid, which is the great safety net that we talk about in skilled nursing facilities. Also, if you're young, you can get long-term care insurance. And then there's different income products out there that can help pay for long-term care. But today we're going to specifically focus on the non-service connected pension with aid and attendance. And it's specifically for those who had served during a wartime period, and you do not have to be disabled during your time of service. The VA looks at disability as over the age of 65 and or unemployable. So there's specific qualifying criteria that you need to have in order to qualify for this particular benefit. And there are hundreds of benefits the VA offers. Here at Senior Resource Center, we're specific to this one that's tied to long-term care, and this is what we are the experts on. So this one, you have to have honorable discharge. You have to have served at least 90 consecutive days of active duty, and just one of those days has to fall in that period of conflict. So the periods of conflict, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War. So as long as your service was 90 consecutive days, even let's say in the Korean War, one of the first day you were in service was on January 31st of 1955. So you've got that one day in that window, then you would be eligible for this benefit. But not everyone is eligible right away. So we'll talk a little bit more about what kind of criteria you have to meet medically and financially. So how much can you receive this year? A married vet can get $22.95, a single vet $19.36, a veteran spouse, so the veteran is healthy, but the spouse is the one needing the care, can get $15.19, and the surviving spouse can get up to $12.44. So this is the max amount that the VA will allow you to receive. You could get less depending on your qualifications, but they won't pay any more than this. It's kind of like a fixed pension. It will go up with inflation or, with cost of living adjustments annually, but this is the max that you'll get. All right. So let's say you are a vet and you meet the criteria for your service. You also need to be needing some sort of care. So in the medical criteria, you must be needing the care, receiving the care, so someone's actually helping you, and paying for that care. And there's two ways. You need help with two activities of daily living, so that's eating, and I mean by someone actually physically has to put a spoon to your mouth, bathing, dressing, toileting, and transference. So transference meaning I need help from a bed to a chair or my bed to my walker to get to the bathroom or the kitchen, that sort of thing. Or have significant cognitive impairment and need to live in a protected environment. So, I might be able to dress myself and bathe myself without falling, but if no one told me to bathe or no one told me it was time to eat or take my medicine, then or I'm a wander risk, then that would qualify as cognitive impairment, and you still would be able to get the benefit. Okay, so I'm going to have Bill take over, and he's going to speak specifically in the next qualifying criteria, which is the financial piece.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm glad you joined us. I appreciate your staying with us, having patience. We've done a lot of webinars over the last year, and this is the first one that the technical snafu seemed like it was relentless. But let's talk about two other criteria to get the VA benefit. Part of it is assets, and part of it is countable income. So let's start with the asset side. The VA looks at what liquid or countable assets you have, and they consider things like bank accounts, 401ks, IRAs, other retirement funds, cash value life insurance, land over 2 acres, additional homes if you have a second home. Those are all countable assets. And the maximum countable assets you can have is 130,773. But we'll talk about strategies to work around that. On an income standpoint, the VA looks at all income. So if you're married, they look at both the veteran's income and the spouse of the veteran. They combine them together, and that's considered countable income. And they're looking at gross income, not net income. So to receive the full benefit, your care expenses must equal or exceed your monthly income. So let's take a simple case. Let's say we have a single veteran, and that veteran has two sources of income, $1,000 from Social Security and say $800 from a pension. So total gross income is $1,800. If that person is spending $1,900 for care, and that might be a facility fee, like staying at Parsons House. It could be paying a home health agency. There's other ways to pay for care at home, and it can include medical premiums and or IADLs. And the IADLs are things like paying for medicine management, prescription drugs, incontinence products, diapers, food preparation, house cleaning. Those things can all be added in. If my total care expenses exceed my income, then I trigger that full VA aid and attendance benefit that Tara talked about earlier, depending on whether I'm married or single and whether I'm the veteran or the spouse of the veteran. So let's talk about, so to get the full benefit, your care expenses have to equal or exceed your monthly income. On the asset side, there are some exempt assets, and the principal one is a home. There's no maximum value on the home, but it's generally limited to 2 acres of land if the land is contiguous and can be subdivided. So let's say I have a home on 4 acres and 2 acres could be parceled off. Then the home on 2 acres is exempt, and the other 2 acres are considered a countable asset. One vehicle, one car of any value is an exempt asset. Burial or final needs programs. If you've gone to a funeral home and purchased a contract to pay for cremation or traditional burial, and if you have burial plots, those are all exempt. And term life insurance is exempt. And the reason, because term life insurance has no cash value. So these are the exempt assets. Everything else generally that we have is a countable asset. So let's first talk about what we can't do. The VA changed its rules about 3 years ago. Up until 3 years ago, we had a lot more flexibility of what we did with excess assets. So let's talk about, we used to be able to transfer assets into a trust or into an annuity generating income, and that would exempt those assets. But we can't do that anymore. And we can't move money to another person. Uh, if we move money to another person, we trigger what's known as a 3-year look back on gifting. And so let's say I want to apply for VA, and a year ago I gave $100,000 to my son, and I have 50,000 left in my name. Well, the VA will add back that gift, and so I would have 150, and I would be over the $130,000 limit. How does the VA know what we've done with our money? That's a real good question. They use IRS records, and they're very specific. They look anything the IRS can see, the VA can see. So if you're earning interest on a CD, they know it. If you have interest being paid out of a savings account, even if it's very small, they know that that's being generated by a bank account, and they can back into it and figure out that you have additional assets. So when we file with VA, we have to expose everything. We tell them about all sources of income and all assets in order to be upfront. So let's talk about some of the strategies that Tara and I help people investigate if they're above that $130,000 threshold. Let's say I have 150,000, so I'm above the threshold. So what can I do with the excess? Well, first, if I have a home and I still have a mortgage outstanding on it, just by taking money out of my checking or savings account and paying down the mortgage, I'm converting a countable asset into an exempt asset. Maybe I haven't bought a burial program yet. So now, since burial is not optional, we're all going to have a funeral. Buying a burial program for you or your spouse is a great way to set aside funds that will be used in the future, and that locks in the cost of the funeral. Maybe I gave up my driving privileges, uh, and so I no longer own a car, but merely by buying a car in my name, even if I don't drive it, that's a way to convert countable assets into an exempt asset. Once again, that car then can be used to take you to and from medical care. Maybe I have some credit card bills or other debts. Well, it's a great time to pay those off and spend down. If I'm just modestly above the $130,000 threshold, just by paying for extra care at home or maybe moving into Parsons House, that's a way to spend down and get under the $130,000 threshold. But what if I've got substantial assets above 130? What are my options there? Well, remember that the VA only looks at the previous 36 months. So sometimes we have folks come in and they go, hey, mom or dad need a little care now. We're looking down the road. We know that their care needs will probably expand and that they may well be in a facility in the future that could be expensive. What can we do? And the answer is we can transfer assets from mom and dad to a son or daughter to hold for them. And that starts a 36-month clock, a 36-month look back. And so we call this proactive planning. It's looking into the future saying, I want to be eligible for VA and or maybe Medicaid benefits in the future, but I know these assets might count against me. So by transferring assets to a son or daughter, we start that 36-month clock. And 37 months later, we can put our hand on the Bible and file for VA benefits and say, hey, I have not given anything away in the previous 36 months, and I'm eligible for the full VA benefit. So I want to talk about, well, I'm going to ask Tara to come back and talk about VA forms, because in our experience, navigating the VA system is very, very difficult. The forms are set up, unfortunately, for failure. And Tara has become a wizard in helping people complete the forms correctly. So let me ask Tara to step back in and talk about VA forms.
Okay. So when you are applying for the benefit, the first thing you're going to want to do is send in a one-page informal application and the discharge papers, or also called the DD-214 from the veteran that shows their dates of service and where they entered and when they exited. This is a great starting point. So, for example, if we sent it in today, they're going to say, okay, you have just notified us that you plan on filing for a benefit. And then once we finish that one, then we start working on the formal application. So there's two applications, one for a veteran, one for a spouse. There's two different separate ones, about 16 pages. And it's a minefield of, do I fill this part out? Do I not fill this part out? Whose address should I put in there? Things like that. So it's very important to get someone who knows what they're doing to help you with these forms, whether it's us or your local veteran service officer. There's one in every county, but somebody who's done this before, because if you leave any field blank or they don't understand, it just goes from a fully developed claim to a not fully developed claim, which can take longer than 6 months. The other form that's real important in the formal application is the physician's form. And we always recommend that you sit with us and we discuss and fill out for the doctor the physician's form. And why do we do that? First of all, the doctors are usually very busy and they'll write a few cryptic notes. They will, summarize, and they don't use the key words that the VA is looking for. Specifically, they want to know if the veteran or the spouse needs hands-on assistance. So we want to make sure we're using those words. Then you just take that form to the to the physician and, ask them to look it over and ask them if it's okay. Will you finish anything that I was missing, and then sign it? And 99% of the time, the doctor's happy to do that. You can also bring a blank form with you. So if they say, no, I want to fill it out myself, then you have one available for them. If you have assets greater than $10,000, there's another 12-page form you have to fill out to show where your assets are, how much is in there, do you have any interest, are you collecting dividends, and so on. So we need to be able to explain all of those. We also have to send proof of all those assets. So we need to show current bank statements or statements from your 401k, IRA, life insurance, whatever it is. The current amount of time that the VA is taking for approval is a solid 6 months. I even had a sweet lady across the street in an assisted living facility who was 101, and they still took 6 months. We can ask for an expedited case, but with all that's happened with COVID and everything else, they're pretty solid on their 6 months before approval. They only correspond through mail. You'll never get a phone call. So anything that is missing, if there's something they need or they don't understand, they will send you a letter, and then you have to respond through the mail. The nice thing, though, is that the VA will retroactively pay back. So we talked about that informal application. That is your stake in the ground for the payback. So if they took 6 months to complete the case, the first check you're going to get, or the veteran will get, is a 6-month lump sum of whatever the monthly amount is times 6. And then after that, you'll start getting your monthly payments. So if you were digging into savings or someone was helping you, cover the cost of care in that 6 months, they'll be able to get paid back through that lump sum. So we always recommend, get help understanding what the VA rules are, understanding how to do the applications. It's really important. But VA isn't just one piece of a total long-term care plan. It's just a small piece, because when you're looking at a long-term care plan, you got to look all the way to the end and see, are there going to be expenses that are higher? Is there going to be a place where I'm going to need a significantly amount more care in the future? And so at Senior Resource Center, anytime we do a long-term care estate plan, we're always helping the veteran or the veteran spouse get VA, but we're planning out to what ifs. What if they need a higher level of care? Maybe they need skilled nursing and they're going to need Medicaid. We want to make sure that whatever we do today to get VA is not going to prevent them from getting future benefits if the care level gets higher. So we always joke that you would never do your own appendectomy. You would always hire someone professionally. So whether it's us or someone else who understands the VA forms and the VA system, we highly recommend you don't do it by yourself. So we'd love for you to schedule a meeting with us or give us a call, send us an email if you have questions. Our consultations are always free. So make sure that you jot these numbers down. Also, we're being hosted by Parsons House, Austin, and I'm going to answer some questions if we have any. Don't forget, you can type them in the bubble at the top, and I'll be able to answer your questions, and then I'll hand it over to Rhonda. So the first question we have is, can I get benefits from my divorced spouse? And that's a great question. And the answer is no. It is your last spouse you were married to. So let's say my husband was a vet and he passed away and I never remarried, I could get benefits. But if I divorced a spouse and then I never got remarried, I cannot go back and try to get benefits. The divorce basically truncates the option to get the benefit. Let's say I got married to a vet, he died, I got married to another vet, then I would be able to get the benefit because I was married. My most recent spouse would be the one who I can get the benefits from. Next question. Okay. Can I get benefits if I'm claiming disability? That's another great question. I had a couple calls yesterday about this. If you are already receiving a disability check from the VA, they will give you the higher of the two. So, for example, if my disability check is $3,000, but the most that I can get as a married vet is $2,200 from aid and attendance, the $3,000 is more than the aid and attendance, so they're not going to give me any more. So you're not going to be able to get your $3,000 and aid and attendance. But let's say my disability check is only a 10% disability, and I get $100 a month, and so my benefit in attendance would be $2,200. They would take $100 off for the disability I'm already receiving, so then I would receive $2,100 for aid and attendance and the $100 for disability. So you get the higher of the two. You cannot get both together. So I guess that's all the questions we have. Anybody else? There. And then I am going to have Bill talk a little bit about Parsons House.
Thank you, Tara. Parsons House is a great place. Tara and I work with a lot of different care facilities around the Central Texas area. And I think what stands out in my mind with Parsons House is that it is a family-run, family-owned institution. They have multiple facilities, and it has kind of a family or a home type feel to it. If you've not been there, it's on the north side of Austin, and I'd strongly recommend giving Rhonda a call. They can arrange a walkthrough. You can meet some of the residents there and ask about how's the food and what are the activities like. But we've enjoyed a good, long working relationship with Parsons House just because of the feel. All the families that have gone there have been very happy with the quality of care and the camaraderie and what it's like to be there. So we recommend give Rhonda a call and visit if you're curious about what it is to live in an assisted living type center, what kind of benefits they provide. So with that, I think that's it for today. Tara and I are doing a series of webinars based on a book I wrote during the pandemic. We started actually this series, a 13-week series yesterday on how to build a bulletproof retirement plan. The remaining 12 webinars will be on a variety of topics that deal with retirement, long-term care, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, estate planning, legal documents. All of that's going to be covered over the next 12 weeks. And we're recording the webinars. So if you go to our website, srctexas.com, and look under resources, you'll see the recorded versions as they appear. They're always at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. If that's not convenient, you can check back in to the website at your convenience and listen to the webinars. We're trying to keep them down to 30, 40 minutes so that you can listen, glean information. And as always, if you have questions, give us a call. Our consultations are always free. We're happy to sit with families, answer questions, provide educational guidance about different parts of retirement planning, including long-term care. So with that, we're going to sign off today. Thank you for joining us. Tara is going to be sending you a PDF copy of the second edition of the book, and please read it. If you have questions about what's in there or want to know more about how that can be beneficial for you, give us a call, and we're here as a resource for you in Central Texas. Have a great day.